Hello? Hello, can you guys hear me? We are back. We managed to to make these things work. Thankfully, it was actually a very stupid um mistake from my part, but I managed to save it. Nice, nice. Okay, let's go to the other screen. Hello. Man, I'm actually surprised that you guys are still here. I was just about to reschedule this thing for some other day, but I managed to fix it. Me and my dad. My dad was actually the one to figure it out. And it was a very stupid mistake. Okay, nice. How was your beginning of the year or your Christmas? Did you guys get something interesting for Christmas? Win that. Yeah. So, I already made you waste a lot of time. So let's begin. So, if you watch the last stream, uh, I said that this was going to be kind of a two-part. Uh, the first one, I just explained you what TVPaint kind of is and how it works. But now I want to show you an actual project. So the things that I explained you are not so abstract. Because I know sometimes you explain stuff, but if you cannot show it, people don't really understand it completely. Sorry. So let's go to TV Paint. I'll read your comments in a bit. I'm just I'm just being very careful with TV Paint at this moment because this project is very heavy. You'll see in a second. So I don't wanna I don't wanna mess it up because opening the whole thing again would take a lot of time. By the way, let me know if my volume is okay because I'm seeing it kind of peaking. So let me know. So TV Paint. Okay, can you guys see TV Paint? Second, I'm going to change screens for me. Okay, nice. Okay, nice. So let's go to yeah. Well, this is the big project that I wanted to show you. This was made for Face Connect, the VTuber agency. It was for their new gen Face Saga, and it took a couple of months to be made. And I chose the file which has most data. You guys would see that there's a lot of things that are duplicated here, and you'll see why. Um, and of course, I do try to optimize my files when I can, but I just wanted to show you the project with most stuff. So it was a bit more interesting. Oh, by the way, this is very important. The important disclaimer for every stream. This is what I'm going to show you now is not a standard Japanese anime file or format or anything. Okay, this was not made following the Japanese animation pipeline or anything similar. Okay, so then don't you guys don't think that you need to do a lot of the stuff when you're working for Japan or something. No, this project was made independently. I made most of it. Only a couple of people helped. So we had kind of our own abbreviated pipeline. Okay? Just to not create confusion. Let's see. By the way, this is the view that I tried to show you the other day where you can see all of your cuts. I told you you can use this for animatics, but you can also have like completed cuts here. It works very well. I'm going to show you also the limitations this have. First of all, I'm going to cancel some sound if there is because I don't want the video to be copyrighted. And I think we can just let it play. And then we'll go cut by cut, seeing how it was made. Okay, again, it's not going to have sound, but you'll see more or less how it looked. This was the intro that was not used at the end. And some of the cuts. If you guys follow Face Connect, you might remember this preview, and you might remember it kind of different because it was edited again after I delivered it. So this was kind of the base original version of it. And then a couple more people worked on it. So this is a version where you can see the animation better. Oh, this is a placeholder. I thought I had the animated logo. Face Connect has a default animated logo, but that's just the placeholder. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'll try to go in order here through the cuts. I'm going to show you the layers, and you guys can ask me whatever question you have. I'll take a few minutes probably to read your comments because I don't have enough screens to see the chat at the same time, but we'll try. Okay. So let's begin by the intro. This was my original idea for this intro. It's basically the logo with the video, with the whole trailer going behind, very, very fast. And I think it looked kind of cool because you can see the logo in different colors. And one thing that I did, do you see the logo changing size from big to small? Is very smooth, and I wanted to keep that as much as possible. But I knew that if I transformed this logo from big to small, like natively in TVPaint, it was probably going to be a bit rough, just because of all the recalculations that TVPaint does when it transform stuff. So what I did instead is I did it all with the camera. So the logo doesn't actually change size. It's the camera that gets closer, you see? And I played a bit with the timing of the camera. You can see it here, the curve. So it looked a bit more dynamic. And the logo, of course, is just a mask. Just this black. Where's this one? This one. You see? It's just this black mask. And you can see the video going behind it. And the video is just kind of a collection of different cuts. It's not the whole thing. But I just compressed it so it went faster. You see? But yeah, that was my original idea of the intro, and it wasn't used at the end, and I was very sad. But it ended up being like the client wanted, so it's okay. So let's go to the actual cuts. I don't think there's anything more interesting here. Oh yeah, there is. But I'm going to show you that after I show you this. I think this is the original cut. So I wanted to show you this specifically so that you could see all of the layers. And because of that, there's a lot of useless layers too. That you can eventually like erase or hide, but I wanted to show you still. So first we have this like water texture. It's actually just a video that I had laying around that I used to kind of do a bit of compositing on it. So I used 2 layers. You can see how the colors change once you erase this stuff. I use one with darken only as the, how do you call this? Oh my god, I had the word. The way the layer interacts with the whatever it's under it. And then I put another one on top with only 9% of opacity. You can see the opacity here of everything. And it's kind of important to understand how things are layered. And the other one is in Burn Shade 2. I don't necessarily learn all of this stuff one by one. I mostly go play with it and see what looks better. So you can see, for example, if I change the opacity of this, the difference is very, very big. So let's get rid of that. And you'll see in a lot of these cuts, the cells on top are always like fused together. Of course, I didn't do this in a single layer, but for compositing sake, I always fuse them or merge them and put them on top. And what's under it is just hidden, but I have to preserve what was under it. And you can see the you can see the background. I was actually pretty pretty proud of this background because it's just so simple, but it works so well. Look at that. That's the background. And of course, nothing complicated. It's just a bunch of textures and a bit of shadow for the cell that's on top. That's the shadow for the cell. let's try to see how the cell was made. We have a base color, shadow for that, highlights for that, and then the outline, which you can see here. Okay. Then on top of that, we have hand, base color, highlights for the nails, shadows for the hand. This is another shadow, which I apparently just used to change the color. Second set of shadow. Because this was just a hand, I wanted to put just a bit more detail so it wasn't too boring. So I added extra shadows, which you see only sometimes on anime. Shadow for that part of her clothes. And outline. And then all of it on top is basically fused versions of the hand in different blending modes. That was the term. So you'll notice when I activate and deactivate this one, it kind of looks blurred a bit. This is called bloom, and it's something that it was used a lot during when everything was made with cells. But I like to use it because it makes things look softer. Of course, one can sometimes exaggerate with it, and I've had people tell me like, "Oh, wow, this looks so blurry," and I was like, "Oh, that's just how I like it." But it's super easy to just change it because it's just a duplicated layer of the cell with a very strong Gaussian blur, and then you just use the opacity of that layer to control the bloom. And this is the same layer, basically the whole cell in overlay, just to enhance the color, you see? Yeah, so that was the the simplest cut, I guess, of all of them. The next one is kind of the same, but you'll see more animation in a bit. Let me read the chat a bit. Let's see. Volume is okay, nice. Blending mode, yeah. you guys remember first. Yeah, blending mode. Yeah, the background was also done in TVPaint. It's just I just grabbed some of this stuff. I don't even remember which one, and just kind of try to do a undefined texture, and it worked surprisingly. Someone's asking, so all just one picture on another picture? I wonder which part are you talking about? Ask me again, and I'll probably be able to answer. 90s animes? Yeah, bloom. 90s anime had a lot of bloom. Sometimes too much. The one I remember the most, there's a scene in the Utena movie where they're like dancing under the stars and stuff, and that one has a ton of bloom, and I really like it. Even though people feel that it looks kind of odd, but I like it because of that. Someone's asking, how do you keep track of all of this when you have several scenes? Well, I do my best. I don't really for this, for example, I don't really have a ton of documents or I don't know, spreadsheets or something. I just I'm all day doing this, so I kind of get used to it, and you can see that I try to group at least stuff with colors, so I can every time I get a like a new version, I can just group all of the previous stuff and just hide it, and I kind of know where I am. But yeah, like there's for this kind of stuff, there's not really like a big system to keep track of everything. It's just everything in my head. Okay, so someone's asking, you're using another software or just everything on TVPaint? This is 99% just TVPaint. I use um After Effects for a couple of stuff, but it's almost nothing. So you'll see in a bit. Oh, and this is what I was going to show you. So as I said last time, one of the big problems with TV Paint, and especially with this view of different cuts, is that you cannot easily do a transition from one cut to the other. So if you don't want to export this stuff to After Effects or Premiere, you have to kind of work around it. And this is why you'll see duplicates of this, because one of it is generally the original one with all of the layers, and the other one is a render of it. Like this, for example, this one is the original, the one I just showed you with all the layers. But here, because I could not easily do this transition in TV Paint, I just had to render that cut and use it as a video here. So it's part of all of this is part of the first cut. So I could just do this with a cut under it. So you'll see that I did it a lot. Okay, let's see this one. Yeah, this one is kind of the same from the previous one. There's some garbage layers. We see the same water effect of two layers here. You erase them, the colors are a bit more vivid. You can see the merged cell here, just in one layer, and on top of that, the bloom layer. If you want to see just the bloom layer, how it looks like, it's like this. It's just very, very blurred with Gaussian blur. Then you can use the opacity to control it. Same, same kind of background. It's so funny that you can do this for a background most of the time. I kind of got whenever I'm suffering because of backgrounds, because they're just hard to do, or I have to bring someone and pay them to do that. I kind of remember Ren and Stimpy. And Ren and Stimpy, all of the backgrounds are super simple. They're either color cards or limbos, and rarely, rarely they'll have a like a background with actual structure. So I remember that and try to do like something like that myself. So, oh, this is under the background stuff. Oh, this sketches. The background, just stuff. Some base color for that piece of hair. Shadows. Highlights. Outlines. Face of the face, I guess. Shadows. Extra shadows. Just like the last one. Some highlights, which are a bit difficult to see here. Some color for her eyes. See there? This is lipstick, I guess. Here. This is some blush, which I just do with the airbrush tool, the simplest one here. When I do blushes, I generally just go like very, very red and then just move the opacity. The easiest way to do it. Outline. You're still missing a part of that here. Oh, here it is. You see, there's no way I could draw all of this in just one layer. So I layer everything and then just merge it. And that's basically the layer for the cell. Very simple. You'll see a lot how ugly the cells look outside of the camera, which is totally normal and acceptable. Not because I'm saying it myself. It happens everywhere. Cells are generally just unfinished after you go just a bit further from the camera. And these are the actual visible cells. And for for how simple the water effect is, I think it looked pretty okay. I actually tried to animate this before trying this. Try to animate this stuff, but it didn't look good. This was this was the best result. Okay, let me read your comments a bit. Someone's asking, what other stuff is done in After Effects? OLM anti-aliasing? Not for me. I actually discovered the TVPaint anti-aliasing during this project, so I don't need to use the OLM thing. What I did in After Effects was a thing with text that you'll see almost at the end, but it's literally nothing. So there's almost no After Effects in this project. Surprisingly. Someone's asking, do you think TVPaint does some animation features better than CSP? Yeah, definitely. TVPaint is overall a more complete animation software than CSP. One of the things that TVPaint does very well is pre-visualization. So this camera, everything is so instantaneous. It doesn't need to load. It doesn't lag, and the action of drawing or painting and stuff is also instantaneous and better than any other software, in my opinion. That being said, sorry, I minimized the thing. That being said, I spent some time kind of defending TVPaint um, in my previous stream, like saying it was very stable and it didn't give me any trouble. But yesterday I found kind of an unforgivable bug on the latest TVPaint 11 update, and I had to come back to the previous version because it was kind of very bad. So what happened was that in my version of TVPaint 11, which is 11.7.6, which I downloaded very recently, this button, which is the button to pre-visualize from the camera point of view, stopped working. So that basically makes it unusable for me because I cannot see what I'm actually doing. I'm kind of stuck looking at a representation of it. Let me try to show you. So without this button, no, this wasn't the one. Without this button, everything looks like this. You see the whole thing and the camera moving on top of it. But what I actually want to see is this from the point of view of the camera. So if I don't have this, I cannot use this software seriously. I heard that maybe it had to do with the update kind of corrupting some files, some system files, but I had no time to figure it out, so I had to go back to the previous version, sadly. So yeah, not very good for me and for TVPaint. Hey Rooks, glad to see you here. Someone saying, "Oh, that was the cast shadow and AO." What's AO? And I thought we draw everything in one layer, but no, we need to separate each layer. Oh yeah, trying to draw everything in one layer is almost impossible. Like, maybe not impossible, but not very useful. Like, layers help you a lot. Someone's asking, is there a way to change the pan keybind to space instead of alt? Or am I doomed? Good question. I actually defined all of the controls for this a long time ago. But you can go here to edit preferences, and you can move almost everything. Like, all the controls are customizable, so you probably can. Okay, let's go to some other cuts. This is the first one that has some actual animation, even though it's not a lot. But don't worry, we'll go through some more interesting ones. But this one has the mouth animated, and this like foggy glass thing, which are just a couple of layers on top with different like opacities. You see they're not very strong, like 17 and 30, and they're just programmed to appear slowly on top. I think I also had this color at some point, but it didn't work. And these are just like color adjustments for where things appear, you see. Very subtle. Now, if you erase this one, it becomes more saturated. Just to kind of make it look a bit more mysterious. We have this one. I guess at some point I tried to do the same water effect and just didn't at the end. It wouldn't have looked good. And then we have the cells. Oh my god, what's this? Color. Shade. Oh, these are just adjustments. At some point I I probably decide to layer this stuff just to change the colors a bit. Probably just to make the colors more intense. This is the merged cell. What do we have under it? Have a layer of we have a layer of hands and a layer of face. But those are also a ton of layers. This is the mouth. The animation is super simple. It's just 2 keys. This one, and then some in-betweens. Nothing complex at all. Shadows for the mouth. Color of the mouth. And lips. All of this can be done super fast if you're working just by yourself. It only takes maybe a couple of hours to do something like this. Color of the hands. Or shadows, actually. These are shadows. This is the base color. Some time ago, at first when you begin like doing kind of illustration or painted characters, you are tempted to, for doing the shadows, just use one layer in multiply, for example, on top of everything, which works maybe sometimes, but most of the time it doesn't look 100% okay. So you'll eventually want to actually pick a color for your shadows, even if it takes more time. And this is the layer of face. Shadows for the hair. Outline of the face. The blush. You see here that the blush is actually super red, but if you just lower the opacity, it looks okay. I do this so that I just don't have to choose like a specific blush or anything. Just make it very red and lower the opacity. Base color, and this is something I didn't use, and all of this is like sketches. But yeah, and did you notice that, of course, the face and the mouth are different layers, right? So I, of course, don't have to redraw everything or copy like the face every time the mouth changes. That's one of the main principles of actually doing animation, is being able to layer your stuff so you don't have to redraw everything. Very simple cut, and just the camera getting closer. Okay, track up. Let's read some comments. Ambient occlusion. I guess that's the that's the actual term. Someone's asking, did you make all of this with the team? I just had a couple of people help me with in-betweens and some stuff, but most of this is just me. That's a great advice, the thing with the shadows. Oh, glad. Glad it is. Also, the face and her hands are a book layer. No. They are also technically, if this was like actual anime, they would be cells. Books are part of the background, remember? They're handled by the background team. So if she had something on top that's not part of her, or that's not colored as a cell, that would be a book. But in this case, neither the face or the hands, even though they don't move, they are not books. They're cells. Okay, this is one of my favorite cuts. Finally, I get to talk about this one. It looks like this. It's nice, right? I had to experiment a lot with this, but it ended up looking just like I wanted. By the way, you might be asking yourselves why we have some like weird cuts where the characters do not really appear completely. That's because the agency didn't want to show the whole models, so it was kind of a surprise. But that's the reason why we don't see the whole characters, and it's not because of it's not because I didn't want to show them. So one of the things that I experimented the most here was the fire, because I didn't want to animate it. It would have looked kind of rough if I actually animated this. I guess I technically animated, but I did it with effects, and surprisingly, I managed to do it here on TVPaint instead of going to After Effects. Let's see if I can make it somehow visible. All of these ones I'll show you at the end. These are basically the just the lining that hits at the end, which is very simple. It's just a colored cell on top, and this kind of impact frame here. I just layer like a black layer on top, or white, whatever I need. It's nothing complex at all. And this is just like a radial blur or something that I took from the TVPaint effects. But the fire was actually kind of a challenge. It has a lot of layers of just light and stuff. Oh, actually, there are only two. I probably just merged everything. Oh, here's a couple more. Yeah. Here I managed to do just 3, but they were more. And I'm not really sure I actually remember how to do this. Basically, what I did was I took the base sigil here. This one. See, it has a ton of other layers on top. So I took the base sigil, And I use a filter to kind of blur it in a vertical manner. And then I use an effect here, which was probably here in distortion. I think it was wave. It was something like this. Or distortion, warp grid, or something. I use one of these to kind of make it wave around like fire. And then I blurred it a couple of times, and it worked surprisingly well. Man, I wonder which one was the effect. Warp grid? I think it was warp grid. But at the moment, if you ask me exactly how I did it, I don't really remember. I'll have to try to do it again from zero, but it took me several hours to figure it out. So I was happy I didn't have to go to After Effects to do it. Here are the eyes. Yes, the eyes also took me a bit to figure out, because I wanted the animation to be very good. Because if you're just showing eyes, at least animate them well. Do we have a first key of the eyes just glows? Then we have an anticipation with an in-between in the middle. And then they open. And there's kind of an overshoot. This is an overshoot. The eyes are more open here than at the end. And then they kind of close a bit again. And the irises get a bit smaller. I know biologically, when you open your eyes, your iris contracts, right? Because it has to adjust to the light. And she had some like very particular like flower shaped irises, which were kind of interesting to work with. But if you just contract the irises, like the pupil, if you contract just the pupil, it doesn't look like much. So you actually try to contract the whole iris, even though that's not very biologically accurate. I noticed something interesting. She actually has I want to change this. She actually has double irises. She has this like light blue iris, and she has this flower iris on top, which I had to kind of use these shadows to make it look like it was layered on top. It was kind of interesting to draw. It has this light on top of the pupil, which is on add here in the blending modes. Which is just that, is super simple. Then we have this layer on top. This so you see how simple some of this stuff are. This is just a black layer that you can see here. This just airbrushed to kind of just make it blend better with a black background. It's just that. Then we have a red layer on top with overlay, and it has very low opacity just to adjust the colors a bit. See? This is the bloom. The bloom here was very strong, stronger than most of the situations I use it, but it looked good. Under this is the base cell with the effect so that it kind of appears slowly. Actually had to put a lot of detail into her like eyelashes and stuff because I was like, man, it's just a couple of eyes. Like, I have to put some stuff here to keep the attention. Oh, and I guess maybe I erased the other layers. Maybe I did. Oh yeah, sadly, it looks like I did. But basically, it is the same. Like, these are just several layers of stuff. Probably just the base eye and these irises are separated. But then because the irises kind of collide with the eyelashes, I had to merge everything at some point and probably just got rid of the layers. In this version, I probably have them in another project. And after that, we have this one. This one is very cool, and it's actually kind of a simple cut too. Not that complex. Again, I could not show the actual character, so I had to make something with her like silhouette. Oh, and if you notice, it kind of transitions from this cut because of the lightning that hits. That transitions like immediately to this kind of lightning impact frame here. And here you can see this is kind of another version of the fire of the previous cut. That kind of purple aura that she has, and the one on the background, they were made the same way, which I'll eventually remember how to do it. Let me read a couple of comments before we continue. I was asking, did you fill out a timesheet for this project and a storyboard? I didn't have timesheets because I did all the animation and basically everything was here on TVPaint. So I didn't have to send the animation to other people most of the time, except for a couple of cuts. But they were also using TVPaint, so it wasn't necessary to do like a whole timesheet thing. And storyboard, I did an animatic, which kind of got buried under this in some other versions of this project. But this project is very short, so I didn't have to do that much of a formal storyboard. I did a bit for I did a very rough storyboard to send to the client because we were kind of short on time. I did a storyboard that they could just approve in a day or two. So I guess yeah, I did a storyboard at some point. But I leaned mostly on the animatic that was under all of this. So let's see some of these layers. Again, most of this impact frames stuff is super easy to do. You just layer a couple of like black and white layers. This one is in divide. divide blending mode. So it kind of looks stronger on top of everything. See? And it's actually the layer is actually black, even though it looks white. Kind of makes everything look a bit more intense. Then we have this electricity on top. I always say electricity is one of the easiest, if not the easiest, effect to do, because you can do pretty much anything and it will still work. This one has just a couple of layers, I guess. Of again, just blurred and with some blending modes on top, so they don't look so flat, right? You can still see a bit of the cell here. And this electricity I use just to just to kind of feel space and help a bit with the timing, and it worked pretty well. And another layer of electricity. Again, if you ask me if I had like a special technique for each one of these stuff, I don't. I just do the base cell and then kind of play with the blending modes until I get something I like. Of course, I have like a base idea of what I want to do, how I want it to look, right? But I don't think from the beginning of the exact way to do it. Oh, this is funny. This is just like a placeholder for her eyes. And this one is empty, I guess. Yeah, these are just empty stuff. There's some layer for the ground, I guess. And this is just something to hide the bottom of the animation, which is kind of sad because you see that she's actually walking. You see, there's actually a walking animation under it, but it didn't look good, so I had to hide it, and I just did a black selection on top. And the animation is, even though it has that cycle, it's actually very simple. Thankfully, thankfully I was able to do this kind of silhouette thing because these characters were very, very hard to draw. Look at the amount of hair and the dress and all of this was just incredibly hard to draw. I wouldn't have been able to do it on time if I had to draw the whole characters. Yeah, VTuber models are generally not that friendly to animation. And this is the kind of this aura fire effect something. That again, for this I just took this cell and I used those effects that I told you here to kind of blur it vertically, and then add some movement with some distortion thing that I found. But everything done here on TVPaint. And then I just layered a few of them with blending modes to make it look like this. Actually, it's pretty convincing. Look. It makes a very convincing fire thing. This one is just for color adjustment. This one I didn't use. Some previous version, I guess, of Cell. This fire on the background that I guess I did the same way, or maybe I did something different. Now I wonder, because it looks a bit different. I'm pretty sure I used a very similar solution to do the one on the background. It's even on the same timing, but it looks a bit different. Maybe I animated something and then just blurred it. I wonder. And for the background, the only animation is this flag here, which is just five keyframes, which loop. This background I think would, or this piece of background would be considered a book, because it's not part of the actual background, but it's kind of on top. But it would have been done by the background people probably, so that would be a book. This would be a cell, of course. Flag. We have the ground, which would probably actually be a book too. And the actual background is just a color card, actually. It's just red. And everything on top made it look the way it looks. Oh, and this is part of the storyboard that survived here at the bottom. Yeah, I really like how this cut looks, even though it's pretty simple. And I took care to make her hair kind of bounce when she walks, so it doesn't look like just a copy pasted thing. And she's actually, I think I did the outline for every, yeah, I did the outline again for every single one of these. So again, it didn't look like copy pasted. So even though the silhouette is pretty much the same, you can still see a bit of change. So that helped a lot to make the animation work. Super complex? No, it's actually super simple. That's what I wanted to show you. Like, most of these solutions are actually simpler than some people think. Now, this is one of my favorite cuts because it ended up looking just the way I wanted. With some exceptions that I'm going to show you too. I guess I should show you now. Do you remember when I mentioned that TVPaint has some banding problems? Well, here it is. Let me try to get my custom panel again. Here. Remember when I mentioned banding? Do you see the different bands of color here? This happens when you kind of crunch too many gradients together, which I did here. And later I kind of find out how to fix it, but I didn't have time to fix it here. I found out later. So this is the kind of the only thing that I do not like about this cut, but the rest I think works very well. Oh, and the way to solve this is by adding noise. You kind of change one thing for the other. You get rid of the banding very well, but you kind of have some kind of film-like noise that you can just add with an effect here. So it's one thing for the other. But I wish TVPaint handled it a bit better, because it's kind of bad sometimes. So the animation of the mouth is actually super simple too. It's actually just 2 keys. Close mouth. I mean, the mouth that is not closed because it's not closed. And the mouth that is a bit bigger. Then there's just in-betweens that are placed kind of in a staggered format. This type of animation, when things kind of advance but kind of vibrating, is called a stagger. Like this. Color. Oh shit. Where do I write? It's called a stagger. And it's just, again, 2 keys generally, in-betweens, but you place the in-betweens in a specific order to make things vibrate like this. To look like the character is kind of struggling to do this movement. I'll show you that in a bit. I'll show you how to do it. Let's first deactivate some layers. Again, we have some electricity effects. Very simple, just like the last ones. This is the sail. Had a couple of them. We have some color adjustment layers. Again, in just different blending modes. Wow, that looks very green. This one ended up not being used. Oh, I see what we have green, because the background was green, just for contrast when I was painting. Again, this gradient is just a airbrush on top of it to make it look a bit more darker. Oh, and here we have some version of the same effect, like the same kind of fire effect. But here is very subtly layered on top of this. You see? There's this kind of thing going on top. That's the same version. You can see it kind of moving here in the corner. Oh, now I kind of remember how I did it. Okay. So I had a base of some brush like this. This is how I did the movement. This is one of these brushes. I think is this one. Yeah, it's this one. Here on TVPaint. This brush. I did a few kind of keyframes of this, just varying as much as possible. And then I used some of the blurs on TVPaint to transform it into this. This is probably just a directional blur. And I was able to make this super simple, but the result is very good. There's nothing, I guess. Probably just another one of these. And these are the cells. Again, a layer of bloom, which is maybe a bit too strong, but it ended up looking good. I wanted this specific sequence to look a bit more 90s. I think it worked very well. And this is the base cell. For this, I guess we'll see here that the face is one layer, then there's the mouth, and then there's this hair. This is just the combined cell. Here's the mouth. Oh, you see? Here's the actual mouth animation. Again, just one key. I mean, two keys and in-betweens. So the way you do this, let me try to explain you how to do a stagger. I'll try to make it not too complicated. I mean, it's very simple, but I'll try to make a good explanation. So to do a stagger, you have one key and the other key. And then you have some in-betweens in the middle. Just like what you saw. 1, 2, 3, 5. So the numbers would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These don't have to be the actual names of the drawings. It's just for the order. Okay? So if you put your drawings just like this in the timeline, they're just going to look like this. It's just the movement with in-betweens. So what you want to do is place them like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6, 5, 6, 7, and then you and 6. Then you can leave it like that, kind of vibrating at the end. But this is the way that you place your keys on the timeline so that it looks like a stagger. So basically you advance 2 and come back one time, I guess. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3. Basically just that. Is it kind of clear, or I just made a mess for you? It took me a bit to understand this when people were trying to explain me. I was a bit slow. But yeah, it's actually just a very simple animation. I wonder if I have another version of this with... I guess not. With the hair animation. The hair animation is super simple too. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it's just a couple of keys and a couple of in-betweens for the hair. These ones used to have the same... There are 2 different layers, of course, at the beginning. They used to have different timings, but I just like offset them so that they didn't move at the same time. And that's it. It's just a super simple animation. Oh, and the one thing I had to be careful with is that you see that not just the hair moves, but also the shadow on top of the face. So the shadow is actually part of the hair layer. So I had to be careful to make the shadow kind of match with this color. But it was very simple. Oh, on the camera is kind of a handheld. Done the same way I show you in the previous stream. Instead of being kind of like a very violent camera shake, it's just a bit softer, but it's just a like camera being tangled in the middle with. Oh, I didn't even have to do a curve for this. Yeah, that was the whole handheld thing. See? Oh, and at the end, to make the transition to the other cut, I took some footage of like some like glitch thing. I think I grabbed it from like YouTube and layered it on top. And it ended up looking pretty good. Just one layer. And it's in darken only blending mode. And then it goes to black, and the other cut begins from black. Let's see the next one. I wonder if we will be able to go through all of them. Sorry it took me some time to figure out the internet thing, but we'll try to show you the most interesting things at least. And you see, I think this might be just the same glitch frames, but inverted. Very likely, but it looks good. Again, in darken only. This cut looks like this. Very simple animation with some work on top for the light. And a couple more stuff. Okay, so this layer here with 5 keys is this kind of dust or debris you see on top. I kind of experimented a bit with this. I never actually animated something like this before, even though it looks super simple, but it took me a bit to make it look kind of decent. I'm still not 100% happy with the result. I have to figure out a better solution, maybe. Maybe just timing, or maybe adding a bit more keys. But it worked in the end. There's some light. I'm going to turn off the camera a bit so you can see. This cut has a lot of light effects on top. Not really effects, again, it's just like airbrush on top. Just white airbrush. And with some banding that I wish didn't happen here. Oops. You see? But it wasn't that noticeable. I think all of the yellow ones are probably just white airbrush. Oops, I'm going to turn this one off so it doesn't bother us. Yeah, you see that some of these light layers, they have keys, you see, because they have to match the animation. I couldn't just do one and put it on top because it will look different on every keyframe of the animation. I had to do it for every time the cell moved. This one is here. See, there's a different one for every time the skirt moves. It's just a placeholder for that highlight, I guess. And this is sale. Here's one of the things that I wish I knew better at the time. I wish I knew the TVPaint anti-aliasing tool before, because the solution I made here isn't the best one. And it took me a bit to make it look kind of decent. But I wasn't very happy with the result. So now it would look way better. It's the cell, but there's a lot of other cells under it. I mean, other layers for this cell. Let's see. Outline of the skirt. The leg. This is... what's this? I don't know yet. Shadow for the leg. Again, all of these are keys. I mean, not necessarily keys, but they're different. They have an animation because they move with the rest of the animation. This one was kind of challenging to do. This this text that she has on her skirt, to make it kind of match on top of the skirt while moving. I did my best. When you do this kind of stuff, you don't have to be 100% accurate. Like, you'll see that when you look frame by frame, things do not match exactly. Especially because a skirt will have folds and stuff. The important thing when you face this kind of stuff while doing animation is just to make it look good the first time the viewer sees it. So do not go insane trying to make stuff match if people are only going to see it first moving very fast and probably just a couple of times. Like, people will not notice. And I'm not saying this in a kind of a cheap kind of way. It's, if you spend time trying to match all of this stuff, first, you wouldn't make it because these characters are not three-dimensional, so you will always have some distortion. And second, you will never finish your work, which is the most important thing. Some color. Base colors for all of this. Some references. And then we have the bat. The bat was another, like, totally different layer because it just doesn't move. Again, just white airbrush on top. Some bloom. See it better here. The actual bat, which probably has more layers under it. This is the original cell. Not even aliased or anti-aliased. Not even anti-aliased. And here's the actual layers of the bat. Shadows. Heart. Some extra colors and the reference. Yeah, that's it. Pretty simple. But in theory, just a lot of work to actually make it. Let me read some comments. And some people asking about TVPaint. Someone's asking, would you ever make an animation tips book? I don't know. I mean, making a book is always kind of a... It sounds kind of nice, right? But it's also a lot of work. Maybe one day, I don't know. I'll have to I have to learn enough stuff to put on a book, I guess. But I mean, I'm already teaching you stuff here. So yeah, not in the plans for the moment, I guess. And these ones are interesting. This kind of text that kind of wiggles around. It's just the text written a couple of times. Nothing more. Just in a white layer here. He has one. He has 3 variations, and for some reason here are like separated in different frames, but it's just like this, and each variation is here for like 2 frames. And that's it. I of course tested it with just 1 frame and it was just too fast. Here's the reference from the model. Now, I'm of course not a calligrapher of any kind, so maybe one professional would see this and say that my calligraphy sucks and it's unreadable, but no one have said that yet, so I guess it's kind of okay. I tried to do my best though. And for this I used one of these. I think this one. Yeah, it was probably this one. Brush here. The one that actually looks like a brush. Yeah, it was this one. It's just that. Other versions. And that's it. Black background. And this is the same. Not the exact next cut, but exactly the same. And with the same timing, just to make it consistent. Just 3 different variations, 2 frames each. And they loop, of course. But only for a bit. Like the cuts are actually very, very short. This one might be a bit confusing if you don't know what's actually happening. This character has like a kind of a rubber duck with her, and the rubber duck has this kind of a Kamina looking sunglasses. But we could only show a bit of it, so that's what it is. Now this one, the sail itself is just automate. It doesn't move. What moves is the dust on top. Again, this one. Let's see it here. This one is a bit blurred, and the opacity is at 50% because it was too strong. It looks okay. Some light airbrush on top. Again, just white. Luckily, the background was also white. Otherwise, I would have had to come up with another solution, probably. This white. Sorry if I'm flash banging you. These are just some lights overlaid into it. I think these 2 lights that kind of travel to this point, I think I animated them by hand because I needed them to have this specific spacing. You see that they begin very slow and then they accelerate. So I think I animated this by hand. Maybe we'll find them under all this. And then this is just kind of a cross that rotates like this. Whoops. Oh, I'm using a... It's just a cross like this. Like a Gynex light cross. And it rotates to make this. It's also animated by hand. Like there's not an actual effect to it. Let's see. Oh, this is bloom on top of it. And this is the actual cell. Here's some of the shadows overlaid. Again, the shadow is just just a black airbrush on top. Some outline. And maybe some stuff that didn't end up showing. Outline. Yeah, it's just the drawing kind of layered. When you're drawing something that will end up being just one cell, like this one, you don't need a specific order in which to layer this stuff if you're just going to merge it at the end. So do not get fixated, for example, in, oh, how many layers this beast used to do this drawing and stuff like this. It becomes important when it's animated, but if it's just one cell, it doesn't really matter. Let me read some comments. Understandable. Because of the book, I guess. What drawing tablet do you swear by? Oh, I just noticed I don't have my sign here. At the moment, I'm using a We on Canvas 22 from a few years ago. I think this one is from 2019, so it has a few years. In my opinion, your drawing tablet doesn't have to be too complex if you're just animating. Drawing tablets are actually super simple devices most of the time. They're just kind of a mouse on steroids. The thing that you will want to maybe upgrade at some point is the actual panel, so that it gives you a good color scheme, I guess. No, just a good color space. So that's maybe something I would want to upgrade this tablet at some point, to have one with a better screen panel. But at the moment, this one has been excellent. Like, it's like new, works every time. So Weon, at least in my opinion, is very good. Or it was at the moment I bought this. I don't know the new ones. Hope they're so good. Finally, a video that shows how to make a good video without half of it being done in After Effects. Yeah, right? I kind of feel the same. After Effects is a good software, but jumping from one software to the other is a pain. So if you can get good results with just one tool and everything works, it's a plus for me. Off-topic question. Did Sakura Foundry complete the Animus version of the Animation Survival Kit? I think not, but I was never very involved in that project, so I wouldn't be able to tell you the status of that. But I'm pretty sure they didn't. Someone's asking, can we composite anime in Blender? I've seen some people do some experiments with it, and a couple of people too have told me that it's useful just to a point, and then it kind of becomes hard to deal with. So maybe we are not there yet. iPads are nice too, yeah, but the thing is, you have to have both the device and the tool. You can use CSP on your iPad, but I don't know if, for example, an iPad would be able to handle something like this, even in CSP, like a more complex rendering and a ton of layers and stuff. I wonder. This project, this TVPaint project, is actually super heavy. I probably told you at the beginning. I wonder how much it is. Oh, like 10 gigs or something. So yeah, I'm not sure an iPad could handle something like this. Maybe, but I don't know. Let's see how much is 7.4 gigs for this whole project. So yeah, it's not that easy to handle. It takes a long time to open. I'm saying thank you. Color accuracy have always been a concern of mine. Mine too. it's a whole big topic, color accuracy. If you're just animating or doing stuff for the internet, it's not that important. You can have a kind of just a basic pen display or whatever display. But if you're working for, I don't know, TV or directing or doing backgrounds or art direction, stuff like that, then you need to try to be as accurate as possible. Even though this this pen display is giving me more than 100% sRGB, which is good for most consumer level uses, like I don't know, posting stuff on the internet or YouTube, or mainly like how do I say this, like browser level graphics. 100% sRGB or more is good enough. If you are going to work on cinema, for example, like doing color correction, then you need something way more accurate. Then you begin to go to Adobe RGB and a couple more standards that are more complicated. And even though this pen display is giving me good sRGB, I still have an external color calibrator, an Spider X that I bought some years ago, that I used to color calibrate this display from time to time. Mainly because I direct and I do this kind of stuff, and I have to choose colors and do stuff. If I was working just for a Japanese studio or something, I wouldn't need super accurate color. But because I'm doing this kind of stuff, I do need a bit of accuracy. That was the color accuracy tangent. Yeah, the Face Saga debut trailer. I made it. Me and a couple of people that helped me. But yeah, it's all here. All in just one big file, TVPaint file. Someone's saying it hasn't crashed so far. Yeah, it doesn't crash often. It doesn't crash often. But if I, for example, close it and try to open it again, it will take like 5 minutes to open. So yeah, I'll try not to do that. Someone's saying, I get so self-conscious with color accuracy because my because between my two monitors and my Wacom, they're all different. Yeah, yeah, it happens. It's a pain. There's not an easy solution to that, or a cheap solution. You need to buy good devices and the correct type of devices for your needs. Some people would say that it doesn't really matter because everyone is watching your stuff in a different device, so everyone will see your stuff different, which is true. But if you're the source of the colors, you should at least be able to see the most accurate version of it, because otherwise you can make a mess, especially because people will watch your stuff from different devices, so you have to be careful. What are you sketching on? I guess TVPaint. If you mean the software. uh, and then I'll send stuff to my coworkers and realize my contrast is off. Yeah, when you're this is kind of a problem of online working, right? Where you have a team of people working on color stuff, but they're all over the world or in their homes or whatever. When you work on a studio, you generally have to have your monitors calibrated uh, to work together, and that's why you use an external color calibrator, that like the one I have. Oh, you were talking about maybe the pen display. Okay, let's continue. Let's see how far we can go. There's a ton of cuts. I'll try to show you the most interesting ones. I already show you this. This one is probably one of my favorites, with the other one with only the mouth. It looks like this. This one, the animation might look simple, like it only has a few drawings, but because of the complexity of the hair and the layers of hair she has, there's actually a ton of layers. I'll try to show you that. This is like a glitch layer, but it's not actually a glitch. This one on top. This one is kind of a VHS glitch because of the not actually a VHS glitch. This was a like a film effect from an actual like physical film that I think I bought in Adobe stock. So that's what it is, like this kind of distortion that you see. You see, this is kind of film being overexposed or something. It'll make sense because of the next cut that we'll see later. So we have another layer of like dust and debris on top. You can kind of see here. This one I think is the one that I like the least. I wish I had time to figure it out a bit better, but I think it looks decent at least. The problem is that you have to figure out the exact amount of variations. Otherwise, when it loops, you will see the same speck of dust in the same place too many times. And that's what I didn't like on this one. Maybe I should have done more keys for it. But I don't think people care too much. So this layer here, which with only one drawing, is just some extra light on this highlight, which I added at the end. This one is another version of those highlights, just to make them a bit brighter. Yeah, I can just move the opacity here. it off. Here we have a ton of hair layers and stuff. This is just light airbrushed on top of it, but again, it has several keys because the hair is moving, so I can't just do one. Oh, I can deactivate this and show you. There's actually more hair here, which you didn't get to see on the preview. But it's okay because I only focused on the very center of it. The other part is just kind of to fill space. So it's not, when you look at the whole thing, it's not that nice of an animation because it wasn't like on camera. This is the part that matters. We have a black overlay just to kind of sell the counter light. The colors are way brighter. Some bloom. Look at the difference. Like, without the bloom, it actually looks pretty rough. Again, I wish I could have done a better anti-aliasing than this. It doesn't look that good. But now I know better. Still not, like, noticeable at all in the end. So here are the actual layers. We have some shadows, some outlines, and everything on this hair is like separated because there's just so much hair. You see, this one is one layer, even though it was probably several at some point. Face outline. Base color for the face. Some more hair here. Okay. I had to separate this stuff because at some point when you have so much stuff moving, everything begins to collide and it can be very difficult to handle. Again, a base for the rest of the head. This was probably just a circle. Now that I notice. Again, this was not inside the camera, so it doesn't really matter. It's just to feel like color and not leave gaps. But now that I notice, it was probably just a circle. The bows here that have animation. It's this. This had to be animated by hand and looped just for drawings. But because the way they move, you see these extremes do not move like together. That had to be like done by hand. Color for that. And we'll probably see the same, but for the other side. Yeah. For that bow. Here's some other hair layers. This hair under the face layer. See? This part. And the other reason I separated all of this stuff is that to make the timing of the hair work okay, because hair being blown by the wind is kind of chaotic, right? So I cannot make everything on the same timing. Things cannot move on the same direction at the same time. So what I do is I do a basic animation of each part of the hair. Like, I don't know, these 4 drawings that I have here. And then I test several iterations of just moving stuff, like moving frames to the future or the past, to kind of offset them and make the timing of everything be a bit nicer. Otherwise, everything would look, I mean, everything would move like just one piece, and it wouldn't sell the animation. You see? The animation of this part and this part are actually very similar, but because they're not on the same timing, it kind of looks okay. I mean, it looks okay. There's some background color for this part of her hair. The pigtails, as you call them. And some deleted layers, I guess. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, it might look simple when it's just one piece of animation, but this one took me a long time to do. I mean, not too long. This is probably just like 3 days or something to kind of make it look exactly as I want it. And the camera is just a track cut. Again, this is why you kind of have to be careful not to leave gaps, for example. So this kind of stuff doesn't happen. She doesn't have a hole in any part that's going to be visible. Let me read some other comments. Yes, my team works remotely. Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the problems with working remotely, specifically with Color. Like, I think there's more advantages than disadvantages. Someone's asking, how long did this project take? A couple of months. It took a couple of months. There were some changes in the middle from the client, and some stuff had to be redone. So I would say, like, if we compress all of the work that was actually done and that was actually shown at the end, it took at the very least a couple of weeks of like 24/7 working. But overall, the project was a couple of months, at least, from the client making the order to it being finished. I think the client asked me for this on August, and it was, yeah, it was aired on October, so it was a couple of months. It's still not a lot of time, but we managed somehow. Even though we had some changes in the middle. But everything worked at the end. Now, this is the reason why I used that like kind of film effect in the previous cut to make the transition to this one. And this is one of those kind of composite cuts that use, I don't know, it's actually everything here, I guess. So I say this because there are some cuts here, as I said, that are kind of using renders of other cuts to make the transition. But I think we have pretty much everything here. Let's see what we have. So this on top, if this is just like the fire of the transition. We have the cat, we have the girl, and we have this transition with fire here that kind of burns the film. And we have this hair tail with some fire on top. So the fire that burns the film is here, with a few layers that used to exist here before. It's just a colored layer done with some of these brushes. Nothing too complex, and some light on top. And I guess this cut with the tail and the background was done in another project. I think it's not here. So we have some versions of that background. And some reference from the model sheet. And some previous version with an ugly font. But yeah, this cut was taken from another project. I mean, another project that I did, but another TVPaint project. That's what I mean. Or here are the... I don't know, this is the final version, but yeah, it's the final version of the fire that burns the film. But this is the actual cell of that without the compositing. Again, just made with some of the brushes here. Another version of that. This is some extra effects that I didn't end up using. And this is the animation for the VTuber. It's just a simple walk cycle. I had some trouble here. I wish I was able to depict her silhouette better, but because of the amount of stuff she has on her back, she has a ton of hair and a big dress that ended up hiding most of her arm that you can see here. See? The other arm is here. You see a bit of her hand here. But it was very difficult to make it look convincing and kind of selling the walk cycle with all of this stuff here. Kind of ruined my silhouette. I guess I could have maybe figured it out better if I had more time. But it still sells it a bit. And this is just super standard Richard Williams walk cycle. If anyone was wondering. The exact one that you see on the book. So nothing complex there. And we have the cat. I have to admit that I had to relearn how to animate cats for this project. Because when I began to work on this cut, I said, like, of course I can animate cats. Like, it's super simple, and of course it wasn't. So I had to look for some guides and some poses to kind of remember how to do it, and it ended up looking very nice. But I was overestimating my ability to animate animals. And wonder. I think I don't have one with like This one, oh, this is the base cell. You see, very, very alias. And this one, because of how kind of complex catwalks are, like all of the little paws are moving at every time. There's almost no in-betweens. They're almost all keys. I could barely in-between here. But it ended up working very well. And this film, like, footage stuff, I think I bought it from Adobe. And it worked very well. I have to remember to cancel this subscription. Like, it kind of saved my life at this point. Like the Adobe stock subscription, but it's so expensive, so I have to cancel it. God damn it! I just remember it's very expensive, and they charge you monthly. Now the resources are actually good, but if you're not doing productions like all the time, it's a lot of money. So I have to remember to cancel it. Someone's asking how many frames in the walk cycle. Let's see. If you mean the human walk cycle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. For both sides, right? So that's the ones I made, and each one is 3 frames. But again, if you go to the animation survival kit by Richard Williams, just look at the most basic walk cycle that they have, and it's this except this one. It's, did I say right? Is this exact walk cycle? Yeah, very simple walk cycle. Adobe keeps raising the prices. Yeah, like it's insane. I don't even like to look at my Adobe bills because I've paid the Adobe stock thing and the Adobe suite, like the Photoshop and all of that. Super expensive. So this one, to make sure I don't show anything that the agency hasn't shown. But I think this VTuber hasn't debuted yet, but I think they showed everything from her, like how she looks and everything. And again, you can see it's very funny to see the unfinished cells at the borders, like this. They look very funny. But of course, that's outside of the camera. You see? This is how that looks. I'm kind of happy with the animation. I like the overshoot and how these hair accessories bounce at the end. But again, I'm not really happy with the anti-aliasing I made for this and the colors. I didn't have much time to figure out her colors, and I think it could have been a bit better. It looks okay at the end, but my problem is with this. I don't know, like, is the grade of her hair with the highlights and the shadows kind of. I don't really like them too much, but thankfully it worked at the end. So we have this kind of iris transition here, which is just that. It's just um, a black layer with a hole that I made with a airbrush. We have a bloom layer for the cell, the actual cell, and under that, I guess we have all of the layers for that. This one has a lot of layers because it's not, even though it's just the top of her head, it's not a simple cell. Like, it has a ton of details, a ton of shadows and highlights and stuff. So this one will probably have a ton of layers. We have some lights here, shadows. That's for the hairpins. Color for that. The head outline. Again, when you deal with this kind of animations, you can layer this however you want, as long as you make a good job like merging everything later or keeping it manageable more than just merging. Some shadow for the pigtails, some highlight for the hair, shadows for the hair, shadow for the ears, base color. Hair accessories, I don't remember how you call this stuff. You can let me know. I don't remember the word. Shadow for that, I guess. Base color. That was just like lights or something. And some outline for the pigtails. Oh, this is just some versions of the background with different fonts and stuff that I had to test. This is one of the very few things that I made in no, actually not. I was going to say that I made this in After Effects, but I didn't. This was made, like, you see how the oops. You see that these things move up and down? I made this in Photoshop. This is just a big canvas with some long stripes with text, and I animated everything here in TVPaint, so I didn't have to use After Effects. It worked pretty well. But yeah, that's one of the few times I had to jump to another software, because TVPaint is not good at all at handling text. The only text tool it has, I think, is this one, which is kind of a weird text brush or something. I've never found an actual use for this. It's kind of useless. I wish it had just a text, like an actual text tool like Photoshop. It would be so useful. But yeah, that was just Photoshop and animated here. Let me look at some comments. When doing the finished animation, do you separate everything in a lot of layers, like hair, etc.? Do you also do that during the rough? Or in the rough, you animate everything at once at the same time? It depends on what I'm animating. If it's something with several stuff happening at the same time, then I do several layers even when I'm just sketching the rough animation. Like, layers are just super useful. If I'm animating something that's just one thing moving, all at the same time, then I just do one sketch. But most of the time I need some layers to do it. Someone's asking, how do you animate a camera panning? It's super simple. You go to the camera here, camera tool. You click anywhere to make another camera keyframe, like this one. And then here in TVPaint, the camera will move like automatically through the duration of your cut, like this. And you can control this more accurately with this curve map here. You can move this stuff and control the speed and the duration of your movements and stuff with this. It's super simple. Even though, as I said in the previous stream, TVPaint camera is a bit primitive compared to other softwares like After Effects. But it still can do most stuff you would need. Okay, that was that one. I guess we might be able to go through all of it. Let's try. Let me drink some water first. Somebody singing on my chat. Oh, for some reason, it's probably the way I have, like, OBS configured. Like, every time I minimize TVPaint, it just disappears off the stream. Okay. Yeah, if you're interested in this software, you can watch the previous stream, in which I talk specifically about this software. I can tell you like the advantages and disadvantages of using it. It's a very good software. You just have to be conscious of what you're using it for, because it's very, very expensive. It's super expensive. Okay. This code is very simple, but it still has some interesting stuff. I had forgotten about that last part. So first we have this iris transition coming from the previous cut, as you remember. So it's basically the same animation, just inverted to open instead of closing. Then we have this character kind of walking, but this is what we call a rolling in anime specifically. Whenever people talk about rolling, they mean doing this kind of movement in a loop with a layer. You see that she goes up and down, up and down. Same with the spoon thingy behind. Even though they are animated like separately, so that it doesn't look like it doesn't look too plain. This is what a rolling is. You can make a rolling like in any direction you want, but the thing is that you're telling the person that's going to do the compositing that this layer has to basically slide, but in a loop, which is what we're doing here. Here's just up and down. Even though I actually pay some attention to give it some good spacing and timing, so it's not just up and down plainly. It actually took me some time to figure out how to make it look like she was actually walking. Sometimes the things that look the easiest are the hardest, because you have to like um, do a lot of revisions. So this is the version I liked of this cut, because it kind of looks like anime. Um, in a normal anime, they would have made this way, but the client later asked me to have her hair move, so I made another version in which her hair actually moves a bit when she walks. And this was not my favorite version, because in my opinion, um her steps are so soft, or something like that. She's walking kind of slowly and not really like jumping around anything. I don't think her hair would move in this situation, but it is what the client asked, so I made this extra version. And this one has a lot of like merged layers, because the head and the spoon behind were animated separately, but I at some point I kind of merged them to do the bloom thing and the anti-aliasing. And we have this background that kind of scrolls down, have some drops, so it's kind of the idea is that it's kind of raining, but it's just super simple. It's just some stripes moving down, nothing complex. Let me see what other layers we have. Oh, this is for the paper that lands on her head at the end. Some shadows and the base color of the paper. And I guess I didn't do, maybe I didn't do like an actual outline, or I did, but I think I missed it. I kind of lost it. Oh, here it is. It's under it. Oh yeah, I don't know why I did this. Okay, maybe I know. I think my original plan was to have this paper without an outline, to kind of make it look more like paper, but then it didn't work. It didn't look good. So instead of going around doing an outline, I just did a black layer under it that's just one pixel larger than the actual color, so that it looks like an outline. And you do this by using the bucket color, and it has a thing here that's called expand. If you do, for example, 1 or 2 or 3, and you click on something, it will expand it, or it should. Here, it will expand it that amount of pixels. You see, it's getting bigger, 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 bigger every time I click. So that's what I did. Just didn't have to do an actual outline. It's actually a black layer under it. And some shadow to some projected shadow from the paper to her head. Here's hair shadows. Outline. This one is alias. This is something that's probably under the paper. Some layers of hair color. Let me erase the paper or hide it. Oh yeah, that's some of this patterns here. That's what we're looking at. Highlights. When they asked me to add the animation of the hair, it was kind of a mess because this head is very complex. As you can see, it has a ton of shadows and highlights and stuff, and shadows, for example, from the hair to the skin. And this layer was already like all baked in, and I had to basically remake it from scratch to be able to move the hair. It was a lot of work. Again, sometimes the things that look the easiest are the ones that take more time. Here's the spoon thing. And the spoon thing has a like an animation of when she's hit by the paper. This thing moves, and the bag that she's carrying kind of has an animation here where it kind of overshoots a bit. There's some stuff of the background. Okay. Oh yeah, this cut at the very beginning, like at the concept phase, it was actually yellow and orange. And then the client asked to change it, and I just needed a layer on top with tint blending mode, and that was all that was needed. But yeah, it used to be another color. Now you know. Let me read some of the comments. 650 euros for the standard TVPaint? Yeah, but if you watch my previous streams, you would know that the standard TVPaint is kind of useless. Especially if you're going to do like professional work. It's very, very limited. It doesn't have some of the important stuff that I'm showing you here. So yeah, do not buy the standard version. Buy the premium one, which is even more expensive. I think we saw the previous stream that the full version is 1,600 euros. So yeah, there's a big difference between the full version and the standard. Do not buy the standard. That's a one-time payment? Yes, it's one-time payment, thankfully. But if you want to update to the next version, you also have to pay a lot of money. I think you're right about the hair. Yes, I actually fought for it to be left like that, but at the end I had to do what the client wanted. It still looks okay, I guess, but that was my reasoning behind just doing that simple rolling for the hair. This is what an actual TV anime would have done, not even a cheap one. Like I'm not trying to be cheap, but trying by doing this rolling, just trying to make it look convincing. And this is the next cut. This one, the animation is very simple. Let me show you. Because the cut is so short. Not necessarily the cut, but the actual animation is so short because you have to be able to read this and see what it is about. So the animation for the hand moving and putting this on display is just a few frames. And even if it doesn't look like it, they're actually different drawings. It's not just a hand like copy pasted in different angles to do this. They're actually different drawings. So it's not that cheap. That's a problem sometimes. People think that that they can get away just copy pasting stuff sometimes. And just at the end, they realize that it doesn't look that good, so they have to redo the drawing somehow. It probably happened to me here too. I probably also tried to copy paste it to see if it looked good, but it certainly didn't. And the paper animation, I'm not sure if I'm happy with it. It looks okay on the screen. It's just kind of a weird flick to kind of show you what's on the paper. It's kind of weird, but I think it worked in the end. So it has like this piece that's supposedly folded on top. And then she kind of flicks it and make it straight again. The other thing that was kind of difficult was to track her thumb and this part of the poster so that they kind of matched every time there was a movement. And it's not perfect, but I think I managed. It was very difficult actually to kind of manipulate this graphic and make it look convincing. But here it looks pretty convincing. You see that her thumb is on the same place most of the time compared to the paper. It's only at the beginning where it kind of slides a bit, but it's not even noticeable. See? So yeah, in the end, we managed to just make this readable, which was the important thing. And the background, again, it used to be kind of yellow orangey thing, and then we changed it to red with just one layer of tint. And about the layers, this one is not that interesting, I guess. Let's see. Some shadows for the paper. For this paper like part on top of the poster was an extra cell. So it had to be like animated on top. You have the outline of the hand. Shadows, color. And you can see that her clothes only appear later because here they're not going to be noticeable because they're outside the camera. So I just added it at the end to not waste time like drawing stuff that is not going to be seen. Same with the shadows. Do you notice that only this part has full shadows? Even though some of this part doesn't appear either. But this one only has shadows here. That's how you save at least some minutes of time while animating this stuff. Someone's saying same goes for CSP Pro. Buy the EX version. Yes, I know that about CSP too. I think at some point I also tried to buy the basic version and it was super limited. By the way, I've been talking for 2 hours and a half, so if you guys have any questions, you can just stop me at any time and ask me stuff. So I just don't go like talking aimlessly. Here you can see for one frame the original background. But it's outside of the timeline, so it doesn't matter. This animation, You see, it's only her silhouette, right? But she has all of this, like, hair and clothes animations that are moving at a different timing each. This was all made in different layers and then just pasted together. Let me see if some of the layers survive. I think not. But we'll see. Yeah, some of this stuff were kind of left in previous version of this project, which I'll still have, but I cannot open it right now. Otherwise, I fear TVPaint might just collapse because this project is just so heavy. Let's see. These layers on top are this kind of Gynaxy shine thing. Just a white layer with some white airbrush on top. Then we have this previous, like a stencil, the layout thingy. So some sketch. I don't know where this came from. I think it was probably just an idea. Oh, some sketches for the. Here's some of the layers. Let's see. Let me see how I can show you this. Maybe if I do a white layer on top, I can show you. I don't know if these are the last or the actual definitive sketches for this. I think they might be. But this is kind of how I managed to do that silhouette with several animations on top. It's just the outlines, but there's a previous version. I'm pretty sure. I mean, there has to be more animation because it loops at the end. But this is kind of what was left here of this. You can see when some people ask me about my sketches. My sketches kind of look like this. Let's see what we have under it. Even more sketches. This is just a gesture for composition. Let's see. Color adjustment. These are just these things that are here are just to. It's the same drawing and just tilted a bit on time to loop. So that's all there is to it. And again, I think this is a different version of what you saw in the final one that aired. Oh, there was a version with a how do you call this? Like a patch. Like a band-aid, that's it. It wasn't used at the end. Another version of this. These are probably the originals before the animation. Some of the sketches, which look basically the same. Oh no, these are the sketches. Just sketches. This is the actual outline. This is the final silhouette animation. This is one that's a bit lighter for some reason. Oh, so this is Kind of similar to what I did with the paper on the other cut. This is the actual silhouette, and under it, I just use the bucket tool with expand to do this outline. But it's actually a layer under it, not an actual outline. A black version of it. Oh, and this I think I did in Photoshop. Just the bones in this circular like pattern. I think I did that in Photoshop and just imported here and animated here in TVPaint. Some storyboard. It was a bit different in the storyboard. Oh yeah, here's the pattern from Photoshop. It's just that I couldn't figure out how to do this on TVPaint, even though it's probably possible. I don't know. I didn't have time to figure it out. Let me read some comments. Oh, you worked on the crocodile VTuber? Yes, I did. At least on the first preview. Nitya, right? I really like her. She's very funny. Funny streams. Someone's asking, did you animate the character first, then the silhouette? I kind of show you, of course, because it's a silhouette. I don't have to actually draw like all of the things inside, right? That would be a big waste of time. So I just kind of sketch the outline and then fill it with color. So no, I wouldn't animate the whole thing. That would take forever. Especially again because these characters are super complex. Yeah, still a ton of work. And as I said, this one doesn't have all the layers. There's more layers of animation because she actually has this loop at the end. I was saying, do you animate fights? Yeah, I guess I have animated some fights at some point, or at least part of them. For Black Clover or Boruto at some point, several years ago. To be honest, animating fights is not too different from animating any of this. You just have to apply your basics. Of course, some people kind of specialize in fights and only do fights and kind of try to develop a style or specific style for fights, but overall it's just the same kind of animation. So yeah, I've animated some fight stuff, but several years ago for some anime. It's a lot of work. That's why I think that's why I haven't taken even more fights for anime. This is just a lot of work, and the payment is not that high. So yeah, that's about fights. We're actually very close to the end. Let's see. Let me see which cut is this. I think I can show you this one. So again, coming back from the Gainax thingy that we did here, these are all transitions basically to kind of be able to transition from these cuts that look very different from each other. And we transition to this one with kind of the same movement. Okay, I have to admit something here before someone points it out. Until the very end of this project, I misread the name of this VTuber. It's not an easy name though. Her name is Wilhelmina, which is kind of a complex name, and I read it as Wilhelmia for the whole duration of this project. So some of these cuts it says Wilhelmia instead of Wilhelmina, until one of the managers actually told me like, "Hey, you have a typo on your her name." I was like, "No, no, this is what she's called." Like, and she was no, like I was like, "Oh, I didn't notice until now." Thankfully, they they told me with time. We didn't end up using this stuff at the end. It was kind of a placeholder, but at least we didn't make the mistake in the final one. So let's see. Let's watch the cut. Again, sorry to this VTuber for mistyping your name. It wasn't intention at all. For some reason, there's this layer here which totally shouldn't be here. Maybe I just copy pasted it by mistake, but it shouldn't be there. This is the shine at the beginning. This is animated by hand, if anyone wants to know. There's very few. It's just 6 frames, so nothing complex. And then we have this kind of jewel thingy that I had to try to make it look interesting, so I kind of animated the jewel in the middle. I think they didn't use this animation at the end either. This is the actual cell. Oh, this one is anti-alias though. Maybe this one. No, 2. I think I tried several different stuff with this. So I have a ton of versions. This one is aliased. So this is the actual cell. And it has this kind of liquid looking animation, which I probably took from some anime or something. Let me check. Where the highlights and the shadows inside kind of move inside, not trying to look realistic at all, but just kind of trying to add some kind of animation to it. I think it looked pretty decent, even though they didn't use it at the end. And I probably have the other layers under it. This is the layers for the character. This is the whole thing merged with the base character and the hair. And we have several different versions under it. Let me get rid of the text. It's just embarrassing me. Okay. Different versions of it with different opacities. To try to do some basic compositing. What's this? Oh, this is some layer of hair. Shadows for that. Base color. You can see some of the her hair color is kind of this off-white. So I first painted all of this in green, in this very bright green, so that's why you might see some flashes of green sometimes, because it's stuff that just didn't get filled by the paint bucket. But because it is out of the camera, it doesn't really matter. Some of the longer strands of hair. These are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 frames of animation. And they just loop. And the other one. Again, these were animated kind of in the same timing at the beginning, but they were offset later so that they don't look too similar. Shadows, base color. Shadows for the body. Outline of this jewel thingy. When it kind of makes contact with her, it becomes part of that cell. This just jewel base color. These patterns that I had to kind of invent because they weren't very visible on the model sheet. Outline of the body. Highlights of the jewel. Some highlights for her color. Oh, she had some like metallic looking details there. Base color for those pattern thingies. Base color of the body. And some hair. She had a lot of hair behind her head. So I had to, again, I animated that, but then I offset it so that it didn't move at the same time. What else? I had a bow. Again, if I didn't separate all of this in different layers, it would have been impossible to animate. Like, there's so much stuff moving at the same time. And I guess I can erase all of this or hide it to show you the jewel for it. Let's see. It's a jewel from the beginning. I want to get to the actual animation. Shadows, outline. This is probably white. Yeah. Some highlights, shadows, base color. That's it. It has 9 frames, so it's actually several drawings just for doing this. But it was necessary, and then it kind of loops to this. Again, not the most reality accurate jewel dynamics, but I think it works. And I've seen it in a ton of anime, so I'm not just inventing stuff. Okay, I think we only have one cut left. Should be this one or the other one. Let's see. Wow, look at all those layers. I don't know if this is the final one. It's the next one. Again, I struggle a bit. Not a bit actually. Actually, um, I struggle to find ways to show these characters without actually showing them. Because I couldn't like show the whole model. I had to show like the eyes or some interesting part of the model, like very zoomed in. But I think it worked in the end. I wish I had more time to animate her hair, for example, here. It would have looked nice. But the problem was this hairpin that she has that is extremely complex. And I couldn't have moved her hair without moving the hairpin. It wouldn't have looked good. So this is what we had to do. It still looks okay, but it would probably look more intense with her hair moving. That's supposed to be her sword. And if you notice, that's... I don't know if this was noticeable at all in the final version that they aired. This is the eye of the girl from the first cut. Because they have kind of a shared story or lore. So that's actually her in the reflection. I don't know if they ever explained this, but they made it... they told me that I had to do something with that. So let's see. We did this cut. This has a ton of stuff. I don't know what there's so much like garbage layers, but it is what it is. This is the light layer, just to do this kind of very strong white reflection. This is something from the sword. Oh, it's some bloom for the sword. Yes. It's the actual sword. Oh look, there's something here that I don't know if it made it to the last one. There's a piece of highlight here that's over the border of the sword. Man, I wonder. Hope no one noticed. But hey, this stuff happens all the time, even in TV animes, even in movies. But I don't think it was noticeable at all. They super composited this stuff after, and I may have erased it myself at some point. Man, I made a lot of layers for this sword thing. I have to experiment a lot. Of light. Oh yeah. Here I somehow erased it. It was some layer that was left under it. There is some mask for the other girl's reflection. Also, we had a ton of layers. Yeah, this cut was kind of a mess. But thankfully it ended up looking okay. This is the shadow of the sword. The projected shadow of the sword. But if you notice, it doesn't move at the same speed of the sword. It kind of lags behind. So it gave it a bit of three-dimensionality to the cut. I think it worked. There's some different versions. Oh no, this is a reference for the sword. Something written here. Notes. Again, light. This is just white airbrush, but this one is in light blended mode, and it kind of disappears slowly. You notice here in the corner. Had to add some movement here at the beginning because it was a bit too quiet. Some black outline that actually ended up being light, I guess. Oh yeah, it's in light blended mode. There's like this white halo that ended up being very subtle. Again, if you if you paint black but put it on light blending mode, it will become white, even if it's black on the layer. Let's see. Some color blending stuff. Maybe I have to erase or hide the sword to show you the animation of the other character. Yeah. Let's see. So even though the animation looks simple, I actually put a lot of care on it. Similar to what we did on the previous cut, which was just the eyes of the other character. This one also has some anticipation before opening. This is the main key, or the first key. And in between anticipation pose, and then she begins opening. And this is an overshoot, very very subtle. And then the irises begin to contract a bit. Again, super subtle, but gives it makes it a bit more believable. And for some reason, the white here, I don't know if it disappeared, but there's one frame that looks kind of funny. But I think it looks pretty good. The other thing that was kind of a challenge was trying to match all of this projected shadow from the hair on top of the skin, on top of the moving eyes. It was kind of a challenge. Because you see, for example, she has skin shadows here on her how do you call this? Let's say the border of her eyes. Man, I forgot the word. But she also has, and that shadow is moving, but the shadows from the hair are not moving. So I had to match them to be the same color, and that wasn't that easy, or at least not that easy to make it without leaving any gaps. It was a bit complex. Eyelids, that's the word. So yeah, that was kind of a challenge that most people will not notice. Imagine if the hair would have been moving. That would have been a nightmare to animate with all of this. Again, I wish VTuber avatars would be more animator friendly. But I guess you can't do anything about it. Outline for the hairpin, shadows for the hairpin. Colors for the jewel there. Base color. Hair outline. Hair shadows. Hair base color. Projected shadows from the hair to the skin. Eyes. These are the eyes. The eyes animation. I think. Do you remember I told you that sometimes people would do for shadows just a plain color layer on multiply? I told you at the beginning of the stream. And I told you that most of the time you don't want to do that because you want to like choose very carefully the color of your shadows. Well, I had to do that here because of how complex the shadows were and because they were on top of the eyes. So it would have taken forever to recolor all of this for each shadow, but it ended up looking pretty good, especially because these characters' colors are very gray. So I kind of managed to make it look good with a black multiply layer. Have some blush. Again, very red. And then just lower the opacity. Always works. This is some base color, I guess, for the skin. She's so white, so it's difficult to distinguish sometimes. That's why sometimes I use like green or something, and then I just replace the colors. This, I don't know what it is. Probably some highlight for the eyes, but they are under the whole eyes thing. There's some shadows here. Again, all of this was blended at some point, just to reduce the complexity. On a ton of layers. There's something. Probably the yeah. That was kind of interfering with the layers. Here's some different eye layers. Some of these ended up being final, and some of them didn't. Base color. Yeah, that's it. This one was the messiest one for one of the simplest cuts. But yeah, that's pretty much all the animation I did for this, and then later the client took it and did some extra editing on top of it, so it might look a bit different from the other one. Of course, I asked permission to show you this. Sakana was very chill about it, so thanks to him. And yeah, that was a couple of good months of work. Again, for the people that were not here from the beginning, this is not an standard file or format for Japanese animation for the industry. So if you're working for a studio for the first time, do not do this. We have a lot of videos about layout and stuff and how to do that. This was a very small production that I did mainly myself with just a couple of people helping me. So we kind of used our own pipeline to do it. Okay, so do not say later that Beast told you to do all of this for for your Japanese animation job. Okay, let me read some of your comments. Someone saying, do animators in the team mind being in Sakugabaru? What do you think about it? A couple of the people that, I mean, just two people helped me, and they just did some in-betweening and color. They're not very public, so I don't think they are like willing to just be out there for this one. They probably want to get their own credits for Sakugabaru. I personally don't mind, but they didn't want to be on the credits. And this kind of stuff doesn't have credits really. So yeah, that's why I haven't just named them, because they're just like helping me with this. Oh, someone's asking, what's the thickness you use for your outlines? For this one, I use 1.0 in TVPaint. Remember that these values of thickness are specific to the software. So 1.0 in TVPaint is not necessarily 1.0 in CSP or Photoshop or whatever. So for this one, I use 1.0 from TVPaint. But honestly, I think this was too thick. For my new productions, I'm probably going to use 0.75, which is, for example, what we use for Whole Life when we did the Gura video, and I think it looked better. So I'm going to make it a bit thinner. And probably not do just black outline. I'll try with some browns or something to see if it looks a bit better. Santa, what's so interesting? Sorry. Glad it was interesting. I really wanted to show you how some of this stuff look under the bonnet, to say, so that you guys can see that even if something looks very like sophisticated maybe to your eyes, the solutions generally are super simple. As I said, I didn't take almost any of this material to After Effects or any other software. I did everything here on TVPaint. So yeah, generally simple solutions for all of this stuff work pretty well. Beautiful drawings. Thank you. Thanks to the Face Connect people that gave me all of the references that I needed, and I asked them for a lot of references, even references that I think they didn't have the time, but they got me everything I needed. So thanks a lot to them. Learned a lot. Nice. Gura's video was amazing. So good and pleasant to watch. Nice. I'm glad to hear. People still tell me sometimes that they like the Gura video, and that makes me very happy. That was a very different production from this, though. Again, this production was me and just two people kind of helping me as assistant. But the Gura production had a ton of people working on it. A ton. Probably more than 100 people worked on that video. Even though we tried to put everyone on the credits, there's probably some people out of it still. It was most likely more than 100 people. Someone's asking, if you don't mind, how long to take to complete this project? This project was around 2 months long. The client ordered it on August, and it was aired on October. Yeah, it was a couple of months and maybe a few days more. It wasn't a lot of time, but we managed, thankfully. Depending on the amount of animation and the complexity of the characters, it can take more or less. It was kind of a blessing and a curse, the fact that they just wanted to show part of the characters, because some of these characters were super complex to draw, so it would probably have taken a lot more time if I had to just draw everything. But we managed to do it with outlines and kind of zooms to certain parts of the character. So yeah, this one took like 2 months. The Gura one took like 1 year and a half. So yeah, we've been here for 3 hours and a quarter. It's been a long time. Thanks a lot to all the people that stayed here, even though I was having trouble with my internet. It's not going to happen again, hopefully, because I figured out what was wrong. So yeah, thanks for staying here, and I hope you enjoyed the whole thing. And I hope you learned something. Something good or something bad. You can also learn how to not do stuff from the stuff I do. So, if you guys don't have any further questions, we can leave it here. I still haven't finished my work. I thought I was going to be able to finish by December, but that wasn't possible. So I don't know when we'll have a new stream, but I'll try to upload something, either a stream or maybe some videos, when I can. But at this moment, I really just took this time to stream this, and then to go back to work. Okay, thank you guys for coming, and see you someday for the next video or stream. Thank you. Bye bye.